All right, good afternoon. This is meteorologist David Nazario in the Digital Weather Center with some continuing coverage of a tornado-warned storm that just popped off moments ago in Flagler County, moving generally towards the east and southeast with the interaction with our sea breeze that's going on out there. We also have meteorologist Michelle Morgan live in the studio over on News 6 Plus for the continuing coverage on the broadcast side of things. So here is a closer look at the thunderstorm in question. And if I go ahead and play the loop, you'll see that we had a stray thunderstorm kind of wander into the area and begin to interact with the approaching East Coast sea breeze. And that's what helped to quickly spin this thing up into a rogue tornado warned cell. This is not unusual. This is something we watch for over the course of our summertime because these quick flare-ups can happen at a moment's notice, as we saw today. You can see earlier at about 1:30, 1:45, the thunderstorm in question moving into northern Flagler County didn't look like much, and things rapidly accelerated from there once we saw that coupling, that interaction with low-level easterly winds in association with that sea breeze coming on shore, and then this cell being pushed off towards the west. If you tuned in for my News 6 weather at 9:30 yesterday, I'd mentioned that this is a textbook example of what's called directional wind shear high up in the atmosphere. You have low-level winds closer to us at ground level coming in out of the east, but then as you go above that, you have winds screaming out of the west thanks to that frontal boundary that's hanging out over top of us, slowly dissolving. So you can see right now we still have a tornado-warned cell that's getting closer and closer to the coastline. Looks like within the next couple of moments, areas of Painters Hill, Beverly Beach, Flagler Beach, and Bunnell are going to be on the outer periphery of this feature. Can see it just to the immediate south of Palm Coast. Palm Coast is in the clear, this bad boy. Frequent cloud-to-ground lightning as well is going to be a threat. And then if you just so happen to be on the 95 corridor heading south or northbound, regardless, if you're out there right now, especially at this time in the afternoon, be prepared for some very, very heavy rainfall. And there is a potential we might actually have some hail going on in this as well. Here's the base velocity using the Melbourne radar, and this is going to kind of show us where it is the spin is located. Let me make sure that we've got the correct radar site on. There we go. So not the most healthy signature, I'll tell you the truth. Let me go ahead and bust out my little pen tool here so we can do some doodling together. It looks like if there were to be some sort of a funnel or what's called a mesocyclone, it'd probably be somewhere right in through here where you can see the greatest discontinuity, as it's called, the difference between our green shades here and the red shades there. To the north of that, you can kind of see those colors button up against one another, but that doesn't look nearly as tightly wound up as this portion of the thunderstorm here. So it looks like we may have some sort of a tornadic feature just to the north and north-northeast of Bunnell, moving just through that area right now, somewhere right in through there. It almost looks like I drew a happy face, I'm not going to lie. Let me go ahead and clear out some of this ink so you all can see a little bit better. Get that out of the way there. There we go, much better. I'll zoom us down in and turn the actual reflectivity back on. And it's very hard to kind of identify where there would be rotation just looking at the regular radar. You do have some very, very, very strong rains, very heavy rainfall occurring through these subdivisions here. That's the one thing we have going against us right now, is if you look at the mapping here, and I'll zoom us in just a little bit more, this definitely looks very much so like neighborhood areas. We have Rimfire Drive right in through here. Old Kings Road is another area to the immediate east of your strongest core of the thunderstorm there. This would be the core right there, where those deep shades of light purple magenta colors are moving through. Lots of lightning, it looks like, on the leading edge of this system. And I think that also shows us what the winds are doing to this cell. Let me clear the ink one more time and I'll zoom us back out. So what's happening is we have low-level easterly winds coming in right off the immediate east coast, but then you have very strong westerly winds over top of the thunderstorm. And if you look at what the arrows are doing, it makes a lot of sense that we start to develop a little bit of rotation in this, because you're kind of knocking it upside down, knocking it back and forth with that directional component I had mentioned ago. So we're going to stay live with you here until this is discontinued. Hopefully we can nudge this thing off the East Coast, get it out over open water away from folks. But right now, again, if you are just joining us, we have a tornado warning that expires at 3 p.m. So we are in this potentially for the long haul. Have it for Flagler County. I will go ahead and zoom us out so you can get a feel for it. Not the most active of thunderstorm scenarios this afternoon. You can see some stuff firing up near the radar in southern Brevard County. Most of our area is fairly quiet. We just had this one rogue interaction. Look at the lightning off that thing as well. We had that rogue interaction between our low-level sea breeze that comes in off the east coast, the east breeze as you'll typically hear it referred to as, and then we also still have upper-level winds higher up, way above where the sea breeze will come ashore that's coming in out of the west off the west coast. So please spread the word. If you're not watching or if you just started watching, this is a tornado-warned storm in Flagler County. Quickly approaching the I-95 corridor in Flagler County. We have Painters Hill starting to see a little bit of the heavier rainfall, thunder, and lightning with this. Beverly Beach, if you're out there tuning in or know somebody out there right now, you're starting to see the eastern extent of this system pushing in. Flagler Beach, you're still quiet. Nothing has really worked in there just yet. It does look like on the most recent scan of the radar, though, there is some kinking right through there. So perhaps somewhere right in through here, getting ready to move across I-95 is where we have that potential rotating column of air. I'm calling it a rotating column of air, not calling it a tornado because we have not gotten any confirmation that we even have any type of funnel trying to show itself. This could very well just be a mesocyclone trying to tighten up, which is the precursor stage right before a funnel tries to drop down in your area. I'll get the ink out of the way for you all one more time. Let's take a look at the base velocity. The velocity is the movement in the thunderstorm. And it does look like we might be able to expire this warning sooner than the 3 o'clock hour. It's 2:42, 2:43 right now, according to the clock on my computer. And it does seem like our internal velocities, internal meaning inside the storm, we want to look at its movement inside of the thunderstorm to determine whether or not there could be a tornado occurring. I've now switched us to something called the relative velocity. And I know I'm giving you a crash course on meteorology to fill time, but promise, rock with me here. So with storm relative, you're looking at all the movement inside of your thunderstorm. That's very different than what's happening around it. Think of it this way. The wind flow around a thunderstorm is what helps to try to create that initial spin. Then, once we start to see a little bit of rotation inside your individual thunderstorm, we kind of open up the magnifying glass a little bit and take a look under the microscope of what's happening inside the storm to see if it's a tightly wound spin or if it's a loose, a little bit of a ragged, broad spin. And right now, looking at the relative velocity from inside your thunderstorm, once again, right here, moving towards I-95, generally east, southeast, that's where it looks like just outside of Bunnell. That is where our rotating piece of the thunderstorm is. Doesn't look like there's really anything else trying to spin inside of it. And what I'm really focusing in on right now, folks, is the lighter shades of green right here. The difference here is if you're unfamiliar with the way velocity works on radar, red is winds moving away from your radar, which since we're using the Melbourne radar, it'd be down to the south of what we're looking at right now. And then the greens are going to be moving towards the radar. And if you see my two little arrows I just drew, there's that spin. The spin is happening somewhere right in through there. And that's all because of the bit of a directional component we have in our winds. If I were to clear the ink for you and try to turn this like so, I'll kind of draw it for you. I'll give you a schematic. But first, let's get down to street level, zoom on in with who could possibly be seeing something on their doorstep. So we've got Beltier Parkway, Caras Trail, South State Street. South State Street looks to be to the immediate west of where our rotating feature could be. We're looking right in through there. See how we have the greatest difference between the greens and the reds happening right through this general area? That's where the radar is likely trying to pinpoint where that possible tornado or at least a funnel cloud could be. So if I turn us to a more three-dimensional perspective, what's happening here is you've got the East Coast sea breeze closer to where we are down in the low levels of your environment. And then if I draw in the upper levels, that's what's going on with our mid and upper level flow when you get above 10,000 feet from where we're sitting at ground level, the surface. So where the sea breeze comes ashore, it's very, very shallow. It's a very shallow layer of weak winds that move from the ocean into central Florida. That's what ignites these thunderstorms. But because of that front that's been stuck up over the peninsula and the trough helping to push that cold front down, we've got the westerly winds above that sea breeze, kind of undercutting it. So what ends up happening is this basically. You have that collision, and in between there, obviously, you're going to get a little bit of spin, and because we have warmer conditions out there, we've got the lift in terms of getting this thunderstorm off the ground, no pun intended. So we're going to continue watching. It looks like the severe or the tornado warning does expire at 3 o'clock. We got about 14 more minutes. Let's hold steady. I hope everybody out there is doing okay today. Like I had mentioned earlier on, if you're just tuning in with us, this is an active tornado warning in Flagler County, headed towards the coastline, moving generally east-southeast at a fairly steady click, so it's not hanging out with you all for very long. It'll be up and out of there within the next 20 to 30 minutes. Lots of frequent cloud-to-ground lightning occurring, mainly on the east side of the storm. If you look at the radar, the lightning counter here, we're seeing a slow diminishing in our total strikes, which is good news, and they're all mainly to the east of where the core of the thunderstorm is. Let's pull up our reflectivity, and you can see we even have some bolts out of the blue, as they're called, occurring out in front of the thunderstorm. So yeah, if I had to give you my best guess just looking at your standard radar here, you've got your strongest thunderstorm action going on right over this subdivision. Multiple subdivisions, it looks like, right through there in interior Flagler County. If I had to make my best guess, oh, there we go. We just got another update from the radar scan. If I had to make my best guess, our possible tornado, or at a minimum our funnel cloud, will probably be somewhere right in through there. You see the little kinks, the little waves that you have right along the leading edge of the storm? If it's moving like this, coming in out of the west-northwest towards the east-southeast, something in through here would be what would produce your funnel cloud. And then once we switch back to your storm relative velocity, notice that the greatest gate-to-gate, the inbound versus outbound winds going away and towards the radar, occur there. So I would imagine if we go back to the reflectivity, it's right on the nose of the thunderstorm, right in through there. So that second little kink in the thunderstorm complex there is what it's called, is where that feature could be. We'll zoom you on down in, take you street level. It looks like we're getting away from some of the subdivisions out there and moving into another area. Seminole Woods Boulevard is coming right up next. Within minutes, this will be right overhead. We've got some very heavy rainfall, powerful thunderstorm action going on for Belterre Parkway. Belterre, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Also, Karis Trail, South State Street, near DuPont in Flagler County, is starting to see some of the action as well. I also want to mention, even though we're honing in on a tornado warning, it is very likely we're getting some very gusty winds from this as well. Some of the thunderstorms, because of dry air left behind by that frontal boundary we've been talking about much of this week, helps to amp up how much winds come off of these thunderstorms. So we got to watch that as well. We don't have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for this cell. However, it's more than likely producing some fairly gusty winds down at the surface. One thing I'm waiting to see is whether or not this starts to collapse. Earlier on in the radar run, if you tuned in for us earlier, notice that our colors there, the pinks and the magentas, were a little bit more consolidated, tightly packed up into northern Flagler County. If I fast forward to where we are currently, sitting at 249, we're seeing those magenta and purple colors start to drop off a little bit, which usually indicates your thunderstorm is starting to weaken. That's a good sign. I'll take us full screen once again. We're getting close to the end of the warning here, thank goodness. We've got about another 10 more minutes to rock with this thing, and we're going to stay with you every minute of the warning as it stays active. Lost Unknown over on YouTube asks, how many mile per hour is the tornado? Well, to tell you the truth, positive news, we haven't had any confirmation. We're going to go back and double check once this warning expires if there were any storm spotters or anyone from National Weather Service out there to actually make the call and determine if a tornado did drop. Most of the time with these warnings, they are radar indicated, not always confirmed. I can check behind the scenes here as well while you all are looking at the radar image whether or not it was actually confirmed. So taking a look at some of the criteria here from National Weather Service, it looks like there is a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado, and they warned it based on those velocities inside the thunderstorm that I showed you, that possible rotating signature that we pulled up earlier right here with the relative velocity. And thank goodness, it looks like some good news for you as this kind of settles in over DuPont headed towards Corona. It looks like that rotating area is weakening. The greens are starting to come down. They're looking a lot darker. Same thing with the reds on the east side of the storm. We're starting to see them showing darker. If they were brighter reds, brighter greens button up against one another, that would definitely be a stronger rotation signature, an appearance of greater rotation and spin inside of your thunderstorm. But the fact that we're starting to see things broaden out and the shades of color are getting darker, that's a positive sign. We want to see that happen to get rid of that rotating signature. So I'll zoom you on down once again. Seminole Woods Boulevard, Caras Trail, High Street. That's where it looks like this feature is beginning to move in. We also, ironically, have Seabreeze Trail just out in front of it as well, and it looks like based on the satellite image here, and I'm looking at the background here, this kind of snapshot of the roads just west of I-95. We've got some pretty hefty neighborhoods down in there getting ready to receive this thing. So regardless of if a tornado has touched down or not, we'll have to go back in time and look back on the progression of this storm and see if anybody confirms it out there. But where we stand right now, regardless of a tornado being on the ground or not, we've got a very hardy thunderstorm moving into your area. Notice that those pinks and magentas are starting to dissipate a little bit further. They're loading back on the west side of the storm. The north side of it looks like it's weakening, which is very good news. It's probably losing that interaction with the sea breeze. Remember, the east coast breeze undercut this thunderstorm moving in out of the northwest. If I play the radar loop through, you'll see it moving in out of the northwest. It was a little stronger earlier on, and then as that sea breeze kind of undercut it, that's what likely generated the spin, and it does look like we're tightening it up now and starting to lose a majority of this thunderstorm altogether, which is great news. It does seem like we're on a weakening trend. Got about 7 more minutes to see whether or not they're going to extend the warning. They just might, because the spin indicated by radar has not fully gone away. We're going to continue to watch it very closely, and I'll stick with you every second as we get closer to 3 o'clock. But there you have it. We're going to stay with you. Moving across that area, we also had that special weather statement that's in effect, probably indicating those stronger winds associated with the thunderstorm. That's one thing I've noticed very frequently with these systems is we tend to get a lot of winds off of them. It looks like we just had another special weather statement come out, another Swiss just to the northwest of this area. Let's take a look at that real quick while we keep eyes on that tornado warning. There you go. So we have another special weather statement coming out from National Weather Service for gusty winds in excess of 40 miles an hour. That'll expire in about 36 minutes. Wind gusts anywhere between 35, 40, maybe approaching 45 miles an hour with that second cell that's just upstream, back behind it there. You can see it trying to get its act together. We've got those deep shades of purple and pink, magenta starting to flare up in the center of the thunderstorm, which means it's gaining some strength, putting on a little size. And then we have this feature here that's getting ready to move off the coast within the next 10 to 20 minutes. Looking at this from a zoomed out perspective, I would not be surprised if they extended it a couple minutes, because it does seem like it's still trying to move to the immediate right of what's pushing it towards the coastline. That's another indicator for these tornadic storms. If you see the winds pushing the majority of your rain and showers in one direction, but these rotating ones try to deviate or change course and move right of the general winds, pushing them along, that's also an indication that there's some spin involved, and we should watch it closely. Usually that's more of an earlier indication that you might have a tornado trying to pop, or at the minimum a funnel cloud or a rotating column inside the thunderstorm. But in this case, it looks like because of that sea breeze interaction in the lowest half of the atmosphere, that's what's caused this to tilt and take on a bit more of a southerly direction as opposed to a more easterly and southeasterly direction. So we'll stick with you. We got about 5 more minutes till 3 o'clock. We'll see if National Weather Service is going to extend the warning. It looks like the thunderstorm is moving outside of the tornado warning polygon as well. That's another indication that we're starting to get away from the easterly movement. We're kind of deviating southward, which tells me there is some spin inside this thunderstorm, and the warning was absolutely warranted. There you go, taking a look at the velocities. Thank goodness it looks like that area continues to pick apart, continues to unravel. I will pause the radar loop so we can zoom on in, take the microscope on it. And notice now as it settles in over DuPont and Corona, we're seeing an even broader area of the greens against the reds there. So we did have a tighter consolidation of the two right here, but now notice how the greens are much further away and the reds are much further away, which means that we're not stretching that area out capable of producing a tornado. So they might just let this go. Let's hope that they let this go in the next 4 minutes. If you have anybody or know anyone, or you happen to be watching from Flagler County, let us know in the comments. Reach out to us, send us an email. Let me know what you're seeing out there so we can kind of help National Weather Service in confirmation as to whether or not this actually did generate a funnel, let alone a tornado touchdown. Right now, this is only radar indicated, which means the winds inside of the thunderstorm showed us that this could, if it further organized, produce a tornado. In this case, we have not gotten any confirmation, so there's no saying if there's a tornado on the ground or not. And let's keep all of our fingers crossed, those of you watching both on air and over on YouTube right now, that this did not produce anything in the realm of a tornado. I'll take you full screen once again so we can take you on in for a street bird's eye view. And it looks like wherever it is that the rotation is still holding strong, Seminole Woods Boulevard, Stogonier Trail or Sloganier Trail, Squanto Place, High Street, and Caris Trail. That is where your attempt at concentrating the spin in this thunderstorm is present. If I zoom us out and show us just your regular old radar with the reflectivity on it, it does look like the core of the thunderstorm has pushed down towards the southern half of it. Remember, if you joined us earlier when we first broke live to discuss this tornado warning, it was well inside the polygon, pushing towards Flagler Beach, but you can see we have kind of shifted southward. So now, Corona, you're getting ready to receive this thing. We're still hugging the west side of the I-95 corridor there. And Mound Grove, you're coming up next. Flagler Beach continues to see a little bit of the eastwardmost extension of this thunderstorm. Another clear sign that we've got a little bit of that directional shear as well. The strongest thunderstorm piece is down here on the southwest corner of it, but notice how it looks like winds are bullying some of the rainfall towards the east coast. We're moving generally southeastward now, no longer east-southeast, more southeastwardly. But Beverly Beach and Flagler Beach are actually seeing some of the blow-off from it. Look at how you've got some light shades of green well off to the east of it. That tells me as the thunderstorm rises, it's meeting those westerly winds well above ground level, and it's pushing the upper portions of it into the ocean, into the east shores of Florida. Quality shear component there, helping to produce this thunderstorm and why it is that they issued that tornado warning. Coming up on the last minute of the warning, let's see if they're going to let it go or if they're going to extend it. We have 1 more minute, and then we'll actually turn our attention to the special weather statement just to the west of this current position. Because if we still have that breeze kind of undercutting these cells, there's no saying that we won't see something similar with the upstream system here near Interlaken and Palatka, headed towards the St. Johns River. I know this isn't the tornado warning, but this is where we're going to shift gears here in a moment. This special weather statement is going to be with us for Putnam County for another 32 minutes. Notice that it expires at 3:30 p.m. We're going to wait and see if this tries to flare up at all, just like the one in Flagler Beach. It is now pushed southeast of Bunnell, so you guys are just about in the clear. Might still be getting some thunder and lightning off of this. Corona, you're coming right up next. It should be knocking at your doorstep momentarily, and it is 3 o'clock. Let's give it a second, see when this updates. All right, I'm looking at my secondary radar source here in the studio, and it does look like they have let the tornado warning expire. So it looks like National Weather Service has discontinued the tornado warning. We're going to keep a close eye on this, though, and I'm going to have radar up even after we end the live stream. And I will pop back live if we do see that system west of where this tornado warning just unfolded come together. Still have some pretty sporty thunder and lightning with this. It does, I would imagine we probably are still seeing gusty winds out there approaching I-95, so be careful if you just so happen to be in this area driving either north or southbound. Switching over to your velocities, this is a great sign. You can see that that rotating area, the little couplet there, has really stretched out back towards the west and towards the east. So we're not seeing that tightening up of it in the center there. So that's good news. That's likely why National Weather Service has discontinued and they decided not to extend that warning. Looks like we have a severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for that system upstream of it, just off towards the west-northwest of that current cell. So we're going to continue to watch both of these. I'll stick around with you all for at least a little bit longer. We'll see what that does. These are very what's called pulse-like in nature as well. They'll flare up very fast, but then they'll come crashing down once whatever gave them that boost up into the atmosphere moves away from them. They'll collapse very quickly. So we'll watch this closely. I'll stick with you for about another 10 minutes or so. Let the radar cycle through. I'm noticing an increase in our outbound winds. See the shades of red there in this new cell with a severe thunderstorm warning? We're starting to see those red colors pick up a little bit. We'll have to keep a close eye on whether or not along the south and west side of it, we see those shades of green start to pick up. If we do see the shades of green start to flare up a little bit, that's not a good sign. So that's why I want to stick with you all and see what this does over the next 10 to 15 minutes. I also want to extend a gracious thank you to those of you tuning in over on the News 6 YouTube channel. We're watching this area closely. Did have the tornado warning for Flagler County. That has since been discontinued, which is excellent news. Still have some fairly strong thunderstorms out there, though, one of which is now severe thunderstorm warned in Putnam County. Going to be moving towards Flagler County within the next 20 to 30 minutes. National Weather Service does specify that winds inside this thunderstorm could be in excess of 60 miles an hour. 60 miles an hour, which will do some damage out there. Those are mid to high-end tropical storm force winds to put it into perspective. So while we watch that, we'll take you back out for a further zoomed-out view, show you the rest of Central Florida. Brevard County is also starting to see some of the interaction of that sea breeze take effect. And we've got some stronger thunderstorms forming up down there, especially near Melbourne, Palm Bay, and Malabar. Lots of lots of cloud-to-ground lightning ongoing in there. Heavier pockets of rainfall that could produce some roadway ponding as well. The rain rates inside of these thunderstorms are pretty impressive. Probably seeing anywhere between an inch or two piling up within an hour if it stays over your head long enough to rain down the way that they are. They are also moving fairly slowly, I will say. I'll go ahead and change the lapse to 15 minutes, and if you notice, we're not moving along very quickly. The radar beam is right next to these thunderstorms, so we're probably not seeing the entire picture here because of the way the radar beam gets sent out from the dish. If they're too close, you're actually going to cut off the top half of your thunderstorm. So these are probably a little stronger looking than what is shown to us here. And then to the north here, trying to press in towards the Barrier Islands and Cocoa Beach, we've got another thunderstorm crossing I-95 right now, just to the immediate west of the Patrick Space Force Base area, Satellite Beach, Indian Harbor Beach. South of Rockledge, you all are doing pretty good, but it's trying to squeak up in that general area. Notice these thunderstorms down here as well. They're moving more towards the east-northeast in comparison to the one we were tracking through Flagler County. Ignore the polygon there. This is the lapse in the radar frame. Thankfully, it has discontinued. It looks like we may try to fire back up on that southern piece of the thunderstorm moving outside of Flagler Beach right now. Notice that the polygons, pardon me, folks, notice that the polygons have now shifted from that easterly trajectory towards the southeast now. So National Weather Service is also noticing a bit of a bundling up in this thunderstorm more towards the south. It's got a bit of a southward bias, so we might see the strongest stuff miss Flagler Beach. Y'all are dodging the bullet. Looks like you just got scraped by some of the core action of this thunderstorm. So now Ormond Beach, we turn our attention towards the south here. Mound Grove, Favoretta, National Gardens, Ormond by the Sea, and Tomoka Estates. Corona, you're just about in the worst of it. Serendipity over on YouTube says, we had a tornado warning in St. Johns County. That's further to the north of this area. So that makes sense. We're probably seeing that same sea breeze collision with our westerly winds that have been ripping from the west coast of Florida across the peninsula out off the east coast. Going to be paying close attention to what happens upstream, though. It does look like this feature is holding on to some of its intensity there. And I don't like the fact that we're starting to get a little bit of that kinking right there. Right there. You kind of see that there, folks? I'll go ahead and pause the radar imagery so we can get the most latest reflectivity scan. And when I say scan, I apologize for the jargon there, but scan meaning that the radar beam just passed through it and the radar is now taking back that information and showing us here in the studio. I'm not liking how near Hunter, though, we're starting to see a little bit of that wavy action going on once again. So I definitely want to keep our eyes on this as much as we possibly can. Switch over to the storm relative. Doesn't look like we have too much spin in there, though. The reds are starting to look a little darker. Not much of the green going on. So there would be where your rotation is trying to occur if it were to try to tighten up a little bit. Right now, this just looks like a fairly hefty thunderstorm popping off those very gusty winds as indicated by National Weather Service. Kim Asp over on YouTube says, we're starting to clear up in Palm Coast, which is excellent news. It looks like you all, like I said, had a close shave with this thunderstorm. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys didn't see too much from it altogether because of the fact that this is trying to stay further inland. It's not moving directly towards the coastline, which is good news. Because if you look at where Palm Coast is compared to where we are now, the storm started back in through here, and we managed to trend more towards a southerly direction than an easterly direction. So the core of the thunderstorm is staying inland, which means we're not seeing as much of that directional shear. So I don't quite think we're going to see this spin back up. We're kind of splitting the difference the more south that it moves. If it were to continue towards the east, coming in out of the west, then we would have that undercutting of our low-level winds, trying to create a little more spin there. But the fact that we're trending southward in its direction, that tells me that the shear that initially spun this thing around might not be as strong. This feature is definitely getting a little more impressive, though. Look at that core of thunderstorm right there. Those are some bright shades of pink and magenta. Kim says on YouTube, we got a good dumping of rain. Thank goodness it was only the rain. I'm sure the rain was somewhat of a welcomed sight. Kim, could you tell me if it got windy up there? Did you guys see any winds off of the thunderstorm as it passed by you? All right, it is 3:08. I'm going to stay with you all for a couple more minutes. We'll see what this severe thunderstorm warning does. Once the radar starts to update once again, the severe thunderstorm warning should be expiring at 20 minutes or 21 minutes by 3:30. 3:30 in the afternoon is when it'll expire. And I'll stay with you all until just before that. I'll continue to watch the radar, see if this thing shows signs of further organizing. St. Augustine's starting to see some rain as well. Kim says the winds did go through pretty quick. That's good. That's good. Sounds like it was primarily winds off of the thunderstorm. which makes a lot of sense. These thunderstorms that quickly blow up the way that they do, all that air has to go somewhere. So as it quickly climbs in the atmosphere, it has to come crashing down on the opposite side of the storm. That's what produces your heavy rainfall as well. So as the rain is coming down, you're also getting a lot of that flow down towards the ground. It's literally pumping down towards the surface, and then that's when, once it reaches you at ground level, it spreads out. That's how you get those winds inside your thunderstorm. Those are also capable of producing damaging straight line winds. That's where the name straight line comes from. As soon as they smash into the ground, they spread out in all directions. And depending on what the winds around the thunderstorm are doing, it could help encourage them to speed up or actually act to slow them down a little bit. So the majority of the thunderstorms out there, Kim, are heading east. They're pushing towards the east coast because of the steering mechanism. The steering winds are well above the surface. They usually start at about 7,000 to 8,000 feet and go up from there. What's starting this stuff and really helping to agitate the environment around Central Florida is the interaction between the low-level winds undercut and kind of sliding underneath the environmental winds above you at the surface. Apologies, I wish I had my water bottle in here. My throat's kind of giving out on me all of a sudden. So the general flow of your thunderstorms are actually easterly. If you look at what happens out there, once I play the loop forward again, notice that we're bubbling up as that sea breeze comes in. It's the stronger thunderstorms that are trying to move outside the flow. That's what usually means they're stronger. They've got a little bit of spin inside of them. They're kind of like spinning tops or dreidels that you see during the Hanukkah season. Thankfully, though, it doesn't look like we have too much action happening elsewhere. We don't have any active advisories, warnings, or special weather statements for Brevard County. Southern Osceola County starting to see some showers and storms develop as we get closer to 3:30 in the afternoon. Kim, absolutely, yeah. You're definitely going to see some on and off spotty stuff. And it looks like because of the time of the day, it is 3:11, so we just reached the warmest part of the afternoon, which is likely why the east breeze coming in off the east coast is starting to trigger all these thunderstorms. And you can definitely tell this is your east coast sea breeze coming in, because notice how all of our stronger stuff is right up against the east coast of Florida. We have a couple little spotty things flaring up towards the west, but most of us from Ocala all the way down towards Lakeland and Kissimmee and Osceola County and Polk County, we're pretty much void of any action right now. That's because your low-level wind, that east coast sea breeze, is coming in like so. And I wish I could change the color. Maybe I can change the color. Let me try to do this, see if I can draw in something else with... There we go. So the white arrows there show the winds happening closest to us down where we can feel them, easterly, coming in off the coastline. But then the yellow ones I have drawn in there is your environmental winds, what happens at several other layers of the atmosphere if you think about it from a vertical perspective. That's what's creating some of the spinach out there with these thunderstorms as well, why we saw that tornado warning, because you have the white arrows slipping in under the radar, all puns intended, but then it's encountering the westerly winds opposing it. That's where you get that directional shear that I mentioned earlier. Going to keep watching this. It looks like they're really shrinking down that severe thunderstorm warning up there in Putnam County. Yeah. It's getting closer to nudging into upper portions of Flagler County. Kim, I'm glad you're picking it up. Yeah, you can see how the thunderstorms are trying to move towards the coastline. But then one thing that's very interesting here is you can see, especially in your Flagler Beach, those westerly winds higher up in the atmosphere, your strongest stuff is down towards ground level. That's where the radar is more likely to pick up on your stronger rain, your heavier rain, and the stronger core of the thunderstorm. But then I love the fact that the radar is doing an excellent job showing us that as that thunderstorm rises up, it's meeting those westerly winds coming in from our west coast, and you can see those light shades of green extending off the beach there over open water. Really shows that directional component for you all to kind of take in and marinate with me. And Tony, as far as I can tell, we don't know if there was a tornado or not. We're going to have to wait for either a National Weather Service trained spotter, local law enforcement, or somebody out there to confirm if we actually had a tornadic touchdown. The warning was put out because the radar showed the potential of a tornado touching down. We had the setup for it, but now it's a matter of, did we actually see it drop? We have to wait to see if we can get official confirmation on that. The radar won't be able to tell us that. The radar is what helps forecasters at National Weather Service and even here at News 6 determine if a tornado warning is necessary. For a little while there, when we were tracking that thunderstorm, it definitely seemed like it was warranted. Definitely seems like they made the right call, without a doubt. Now what I'm waiting for is to see what happens with this stuff moving towards Palatka. It's getting ready to cross the St. Johns River right now. That water may try to re-intensify the thunderstorm just a little bit. If you notice down near Crescent City, see how the thunderstorms are kind of hugging the lake there? Now we have another boosting up effect going on just to the west of that lake there. Believe it or not, little lakes and rivers actually have an influence on the thunderstorms in your area as well. The same thing that happens with our East Coast and West Coast sea breezes happens at a much smaller scale, even with these larger bodies of water, which Florida is infamous for. I should say famous for. We have lakes and rivers everywhere. And you can see even here, it's a brilliant example on the radar. Near Crescent City, we have that small thunderstorm trying to simmer up a little bit right along the west coast of that lake there. The one positive I'm liking about the thunderstorm moving through Putnam County just outside of Interlaken towards Palatka is it is moving generally eastward. And if you tuned in for earlier in the discussion, remember I said the ones that have spin inside the thunderstorm, the ones that could go tornado warned, those are the ones that will try to fight against what the winds are trying to do for the thunderstorm. Most of our thunderstorms are trying to move due east towards the coastline, if not maybe wiggling and wobbling a little bit. Shucks, did I just see that? There it is. All right, so I'm glad I stuck with you all. We got another tornado warning. Another tornado warning. Another active tornado warning. Moving towards Flagler County. Go ahead and pull that information up for you. Stop the radar loop. We've got a tornado warning for Putnam County out until 4 o'clock. That's a long warning. They put it out till 4 o'clock. That's definitely going to move into Flagler County. Let me go ahead and message my teammate. Apologies for the silence, just letting my teammate know, Michelle Morgan, in the studio, that we have another warning that will likely reach Flagler County, same general area. So I'm glad I stayed with you all. While it's not nearly as intense as the last storm, if I go ahead and take us back in time there, watch what happens. This is what we were waiting for. See how it was moving generally east earlier on? And then now we're starting to see that deviation. See that? That's called a right-moving cell. When they start to move towards the right of the flow, pushing them along, that tells me we're starting to get a little bit of spin. So within those last couple of radar scans, if you look where my white line is drawn, tracking the thunderstorm through time, we're starting to see that slight bend towards the right. So we are trying to spin a little bit. So we'll rock with you once again. We'll stick around, stay on the live stream. If you are in the stream, I know we only have a few folks watching right now. It would mean the world to us if you give that like button a little nudge. Let's get this information out across YouTube, especially across Central Florida. Let's get some folks to join us here because we've got a lot of people in the immediate direction of this thunderstorm. So let's stop it.
Tornado warning, Flagler till 4.
Yeah. Well, Putnam moving into Flagler, yes.
Okay, just make sure you saw it.
Yeah, no, I'm on it right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, yep, we're going to stay with you. Let's do some radar analysis together. I'll get my face out of the way so we can start looking at this thing. All right, so not that impressive, I will say. I mean, there's a little bit here, but remember the key takeaway here is if we see the greens really start to percolate a little bit more so, that's far more concerning. But right now, I just mainly see reds on the northeast side of the storm. Let me look at my secondary radar here. I have a radar program I use on my phone for whenever it is I'm out storm chasing. I want to take a look at the storm relative on this. Yeah, even the storm relative on my radar product down here on my phone, this one right here, doesn't look all that amazing. This was definitely another radar indicated type of thunderstorm here. Give me 1 second, folks. I'm getting a phone call from one of our studio managers. Hello, Phil. Yes, I am. Copy. Yeah, will do. All right, no worries. Of course, bye. Alrighty, everybody, I got to duck out of here. I'm going to try to leave some stuff up. I'll leave you with live radar. I'm going to leave the stream rolling on YouTube, but I'm going to head into the studio to assist Michelle Morgan here. So I do apologize. I want to stay with you. I'm going to leave the radar up for you all right here. We have it looping through so you can kind of track it alongside of us. And somebody in the comments mentioned in St. Augustine, we have another tornado warning in effect. I want to see. So I don't see anything right now. No active polygon up there. I'm looking up towards the northeast. We just have the one tornado warning. Let me double check with my radar app here. So thank goodness it looks like we just have the one warning moving out of Putnam towards Flagler. It's probably going to cross the border of Putnam and Flagler County here in about 25 minutes or so, if you track it out and forward. So I will go ahead and merge this over so you all can see the radar. I'm going to mute my mic here momentarily, and you can find us streaming on News 6 Plus as well as on television. So I'll be right back with you. If this thing is still active or we still have some stuff rocking out there, I'll make sure to come back to the desk here momentarily. Alrighty, hey everybody, I'm back with you. Just came in from the studio, still got my IFV on, but thankfully it looks like National Weather Service went ahead and canceled the tornado warning up there in Putnam, pushing towards Flagler. Did look like there was a bit of that rotational component to that thunderstorm, especially once we zoomed on into the velocity there. You can see on my shared screen, but nothing really that compact and stuck together that would indicate a strengthening funnel in the thunderstorm. So thankfully, it looks like we're in the clear there. Let me go ahead and just do one fell swoop of Central Florida. Make sure that I'm not missing anything. I'll double check my little mobile radar app. Make sure that I'm not missing anything there as well. Yeah, so it looks like they went ahead and canceled a bunch of stuff. I did get word, too, that lightning has struck the Melbourne radar, so we're unable to use that now. Volusia County, we've got some stuff firing up along the St. Johns, moving into northwest Volusia County as well. Serendipity, I don't see anything issued up there currently. It does look like we have a special marine warning. Let me go back in time a little bit. I can kind of see the radar signature that you're talking about on here in terms of where it is that might have instigated the warning up there for the tornado. Thank you to everybody who stuck around as well. I was over in the studio. I do apologize for that brief absence. I was told to tag in. We were doing a little bit of tag teaming effort, myself and Michelle Morgan over there. But I think we are okay. I'm probably going to kill this live stream now. One positive as well, even though we still have some lingering thunderstorms out there. And the crazy thing, too, is, like I had mentioned, with that little influence from the lakes and the rivers, notice our strongest storms are stuck right up against the St. Johns there. Very interesting phenomena that we're seeing here live on radar together. I do think the more they cluster up, though, they're going to start to battle for that instability. They're going to start to try to steal some of that extra warmth and moisture from their local environment. And the more they cluster up together, the less likely we're going to have anything really organized come together. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the live stream now. Shameless plug, come and find me again on News 6 Weather at 9:30 tonight. We'll talk a little bit about this. We'll do a bit of a debrief. I'll pull up some graphics to show you what happened, and I'll see you tonight at our 9:30 weather show, as well as a cut-in during Matt's segment at 9 o'clock. So, wow. Definitely a turn of events this afternoon. I hope everybody out there is safe, especially if you're getting ready to head home this afternoon. I know it's 3:36. A lot of you out there are getting ready to leave the office. The kiddos are probably on the road home from school right now. And let's keep our fingers crossed we prevent and we don't see any additional tornado warnings the rest of this afternoon. Once we get beyond about 6, 7 o'clock and the sun starts to get a little lower in the sky and we lose that daytime heating, that's when we'll really start to see conditions begin to improve. Probably still have some lingering thunderstorms out there, lots of lightning, and maybe some pockets of occasionally gusty winds, but I don't think we're going to see nearly anything as sporty as we are right now. So we'll see you all again tonight. Make sure you check back with us. Meteorologist Michelle Morgan is going to be leading the way with the 4 o'clock newscast here coming up in the next 24 minutes. And then you'll find me here back in the Digital Weather Center with the latest on the weather, not only today and tomorrow, but for your Labor Day weekend starting at 9:30 local time. So thank you for sticking around, everybody. Be safe for the rest of your Thursday. Happy Friday Eve, and we'll talk to you again soon. But until then, this is the Digital Weather Center signing out.